So Zidoo reached out to me to review the UHD8000, and admittedly, I know nothing about media players, or I knew nothing about them prior to this review. So it took me a while because I really wanted to test it out and understand what this thing is all about. And after about a month or so of testing, I think I have an idea. Now this thing has a ton of different features and it's tough for me to go over every single one. I'm sure I'll miss something. And so if you do have a question that I did not answer, make sure to leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer it there. So what I can do is I can look at the website with you guys very quickly and take a look at the key features and see if I've tested every single one of those. I can tell you right now I haven't, but for the ones that I have, I want to see if their claims match my experience. When I unbox it, I remember thinking this is a nice premium feeling thing. It definitely should at $1,500. This I found interesting, the dual HDMI. So in case you have an old AVR that doesn't support the latest and greatest in video, you can still extract the audio part separately, so you can have the best of both worlds where you can send the video maybe to your new TV that does support all those things, and the audio can still go to your old AVR. They have all these specs for THD plus N, so total harmonic distortion. I didn't get a chance to test those, so whether the ESS 9069Q makes a difference, I can't really tell you. They also have some fancy stuff like linear, digital, dual power supplies. All I can say is if I have a $1,500 device, it feels nice to have quality components, even if it doesn't make an audible or visual difference. They claim that it does. I don't notice whether it does or doesn't, and I can't attribute it to those things. So it does have 2 hidden hard drive bays, which I think is pretty cool. You can load that thing up with a bunch of movies. If you get some large hard drives, throw them in there, and that's what this thing is really made for. It has a rack mount, if that's your thing. So yes, it does have the large display up front. It can show a clock or how much time is left on the movie. I was curious why somebody would want the dual drive bays, and I didn't know because I don't have a huge movie collection, and that's why this is not something that I've looked into before. I just don't have a lot of Blu-rays. I don't rip Blu-rays, and so I had to borrow one from my friend Chana, Technodad, and he has a bunch of movies on a hard drive. He sent it over for me to test this actual device. It wasn't until then that I understood, okay, I totally get why somebody would want something like this. Back to the website, they talk about their dual crystal oscillators, hi-fi audio decoding. They have USB audio in, all of these things. This flagship DAC, balanced signal, so they do have XLR outputs. The parent company is the same company that makes the Eversolo products, and this is kind of merging those two. So if you're an audiophile and you want the best possible audio and you want to use XLRs, you might be looking at Eversolo. And you may also have a movie collection, in which case you're like, you know what, let me just get one device that does both. That's what I think this thing is. The build quality on this thing does feel premium, like I said. Just something as simple as the power button, it looks nice. It has a little yellow ring around it when it's off, so just things like that. One thing I found interesting was the remote didn't come with AAA batteries. I always think that that's weird. When you spend this much on a product, it's kind of like, can't you just include some batteries? The remote itself is backlit and it does have motion activation. You do have to press this button on the bottom to make that happen. It does have a learning feature up on top. I wasn't able to get that to work, but I think it's because I did not pair this initially. So I have in my notes that I was having an issue because I thought it was just line of sight. Until later I found out that on the website it says that it has a Bluetooth remote. And so I was like, well, it works out of the box. So it is both IR and Bluetooth. Although if you want the best possible experience, you do have to pair it with Bluetooth. And so you hold the volume down and menu buttons for a few seconds and it'll pair via Bluetooth. And now you don't have to find it and point it directly at it. So my experience is if you don't do that, what'll happen is you'll use the remote, you'll have to point it, and sometimes, you know, when you long press it to do a long scroll, it'll stop midway. With Bluetooth, it does not do that. It just scrolls as long as you're holding down that button, and it's a much better experience if you do that. The next thing they talk about here are the AI enhancements and super resolution. Anytime something says AI, I'm a little bit, I think it's kind of one of those buzzword terms. So I just wanted to see what they did, of course. So it does have the 2 AI features. One is AI picture quality. And what I notice is it does look at every frame and it tries to detect whether it sees sky, grass, skin tones, and it tries to optimize the colors and the contrast, things like that. And overall, I think it led to some pleasing results from what I saw. It didn't overdo it, and nothing looked weird in most of my testing. So overall, I like to keep that feature on. I would say maybe keep it on medium. You know, you can go high, but I think that can lead to some of the mid-tones on skin tones to be a little bit oversaturated. So I think mid or low is pretty good on that. Now, as far as the AI super resolution, what I found was it works on low-res videos if it's equal to the native resolution of whatever you're using. So if you're watching on a 4K projector and the content's 4K, there's no reason for it to do any super resolution stuff. But if you're watching 1080p on a 4K resolution, then it can do some of its magic. What I've seen it do is it looks more like a local contrast enhancement, meaning that it looks for edges and it enhances the contrast at those locations. Also, it enhances like the little glimmer in someone's eye. If you see the catch light, it kind of enhances those types of things, and it makes things look better in some cases. In my case, my projector kind of does something similar, so it was doubling up. So it was doing it and the projector was doing it. So I found that keeping it on low kind of made it so it wasn't so obvious, and I decided to keep it on low. Now, I mentioned earlier that I didn't know what this thing was for until I got the hard drive from Technodad. So once I threw that hard drive in there, immediately I understood, because what it did was it cataloged all the videos, all the movies, and boom, it just kind of was like my own Netflix. You know what I mean? Everything had metadata. Everything was tagged properly. I could look through and see the various actors. When I'd click on a movie, it shows a trailer. So very nice presentation of your video files. Another thing that I hadn't considered before is that some of these files are huge. They're maybe 60, 70 gigs for something that's 4K HDR. And so if you have videos that are this large, you need a powerful processor in order to play that back at full resolution, uncompressed, with HD audio, etc. And so this does that perfectly. You press play on that thing and it just plays immediately. I would say probably faster than if you had a Blu-ray player and tried to play something off a physical media. So you'll get the same exact quality. It can play the ISOs with a menu structure. I played some stuff that was 4K HDR, played smooth, some Dolby Vision content, very smooth. And I did want to test to make sure that the True HD Dolby Atmos lossless did pass through properly, and it did, as well as the DTS master audio. So I did try to see if I could find some of the videos over a network drive, and it was able to do that. Although I think my network is not really fast enough to be able to stream some of the highest resolution video. I may need to update that or do a wired network. But it did work, just stuttery, and I'd blame that totally on my network, not on this particular device. It's also interesting that you can actually use their local app to load up some Plex servers. So if you're running a Plex server remotely, you're able to actually load that up as if it were a local drive, and it worked pretty well. When I tried to log into some other remote servers, I found that some of them didn't work, so that was kind of an issue. Maybe they'll be able to fix that in the future. But I did download the Plex app. What I realized when testing this thing is it's primarily for your local media. You can load certain apps, and so I wanted to see if I could make the Plex app run. I would put my own videos on there, maybe stuff that I'm recording here, maybe some home videos. It would organize it, and so I could play it remotely or whatever, wherever. And so I wanted to see if that would work. And luckily, the Plex app actually works. They do have the Google Play Store that you can install. I did have to update and use a different firmware version that they sent, but it is possible. And so you're able to install certain apps, and the Plex app does work with HD audio lossless pass-through for DTS and Dolby True HD. I tested 4K HDR. All of that worked with Plex, so that was good. Unfortunately, what did not work was Netflix and Disney Plus. I think Prime, Amazon Prime Video, some of the other apps, they just weren't working. So this is not a streaming device, right? If you are hoping to buy this and have it as an all-in-one solution where you don't have to switch HDMI, you just turn this thing on, you can play music through it, your local media, and streaming, you're gonna have to cut out the streaming part, because you'll probably just have to use a $30 streaming stick to be able to do a lot of that stuff. That's the part that's confusing to me, because this thing is $1,500. It has some of the best hardware that you can find on a Android device that can possibly stream all this, but it lacks the certification. And that's what I find confusing. Why not get this Netflix certified? Why not have it so that you can install Disney Plus on it? That's the part I don't get. It has the capability to be the best streaming device. And, we're kind of stuck just using Apple TV and the old NVIDIA Shield in order to do all of these things. So that's one recommendation I'd had for them is why not make this an all-around device? I think maybe it's because they want to make this the best local player. And when you start doing stuff where you have to do updates and stuff like that for remote streaming devices, maybe that might compromise the stability of the system. I don't know. Another app that worked was YouTube. So that worked. I wanted to see if it supported YouTube with a 5.1 surround, and it also did that. So as far as performance, this thing is extremely fast, which you would expect with a top-of-the-line processor currently. And so YouTube, Plex, local media playback, audio, all of that worked flawlessly, didn't make you wait. And I think that's one of the things. If you're trying to figure out whether to upgrade from your older Zidoo boxes, I don't have enough experience with those to tell you what the differences are. There's a ton of them. And so I would say that maybe it has to do more with the performance of the chip and maybe how stable it is with Plex. I know that the older Zidoo devices, people were saying they had some issues making it work properly. It works very well on this one, so I can just say that. So as far as audio playback, I was kind of surprised because I didn't expect to use this for that. So I just said that it's not for streaming video, and I think that's probably correct. But for streaming audio and local audio playback, I think this thing is really good at that. The reason I say is because I am a user of Qobuz, and I've never seen a native Qobuz app. If I play it over Apple TV or on the NVIDIA Shield, any Android TV box, I have to just cast it from here, from my phone, from my computer, to that streaming device. And so I've never seen a native app until I messed with the Zidoo, and I noticed they had their own app that they made for it, which is really cool because you don't have to use your phone. In addition to all that, when I started messing with it, I noticed they had some visualizers that were pretty cool. It was easy kind of go back and forth and very well made app. And also, they have VU meters. They have a selection of different VU meters. It is kind of weird to use it on a projector system, but the option is there. Maybe a use case would be to have like a small monitor and have an HDMI go into that little monitor, and you have like little VU meters. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was a cool touch. I like that. Another thing is if you're an audiophile and you don't have any parametric EQ that I always talk about using, this actually has the option to use parametric EQ when you're using this as your media player for audio. They have 15 bands of graphic EQ per channel, as well as an additional 10 bands of PEQ with an all-pass filter option. So that's some very advanced stuff, and I wasn't expecting that from this device, but it's there. By the way, I should mention that Apple Music does support Atmos on this, but I wasn't able to test it because I don't use Apple Music, but it's a feature that I saw there. And I think the most impressive thing, the reason why I used this and said, you know what, I like this thing. I like this thing a lot, is because of the VS10 engine. What is the VS10 engine? I think it's just basically the Dolby Vision engine, which allows it to convert SDR, HDR, HDR+, HLG to Dolby Vision, and vice versa. I mean, it can also convert Dolby Vision back to the other formats that I just specified. Now, why is that important for me? It's because I use a projector system, and the projectors typically are not great at tone mapping, especially when it comes to HDR. Some of them, a lot of them, don't support Dolby Vision. Some of the newer projectors do. And so there needs to be a conversion. You may be watching a new movie that's in Dolby Vision, but maybe your TV or projector doesn't support it. This can do the conversion for you. So that's one thing. Now, let's say you're playing HDR content, and you're playing it through, right now I'm using this BenQ HT4550i, and I always thought the tone mapping was pretty decent on it, until I started playing this Harry Potter scene, and I realized, oh man, I'm not seeing the faces because they're just too bright, and the projector just doesn't have the capability and the range to be able to show that. So if I did it with my NVIDIA Shield and I just converted it to SDR, I found that I was able to see more of the content, so I was able to see the faces, but it lacked colors. The colors look just like very weird and not the same as the HDR content. But when I did it using the Zidoo and this VS10 engine, it did the conversion and it sent SDR to my projector, but it retained a lot of the colors and I still was able to see the faces, and overall it was just a much more pleasing experience with more vibrant colors. It didn't look as flat as watching straight up SDR content. Now I am testing another projector that does support Dolby Vision, and that made it look even better. So it converted HDR, SDR content to Dolby Vision. So there's a way to use the EDID and put a custom EDID. That's a little beyond the scope of this video, but basically if I applied that and told the projector to always show Dolby Vision, then any content that was played would be converted by the VS10 engine to Dolby Vision, and everything looked very good. And so if you've ever tried the Apple TV 4K, you'll know that by default it tries to put everything into Dolby Vision, and it does convert SDR, HDR to that. But what I found with that particular one is that SDR didn't look good at all. Like, I'd play my videos, I'm like, ooh, that doesn't look good. I'd rather send the normal SDR image and have the TV show as SDR instead of trying to do the conversion. With this, it looks good, and I'm happy just to keep it in Dolby Vision all the time. And one of the benefits to doing that, whether it's keeping your projector in Dolby Vision all the time or in SDR or in HDR, depending on what looks best on your projector, the thing about having the Zidoo set that is that all the switching happens on the device itself, whereas if I have the projector do it, there's always a handshake. Then it blacks out for a second while it does the handshake, and sometimes that takes a while, right? It's a little bit annoying. Let's say if it's always set to Dolby Vision, then when that switchover happens, the projector is still in Dolby Vision. So there's no blacking out of the screen. It just happens almost instantly, and it's a much smoother experience to keep it on one setting. Again, if you need Netflix and Disney Plus, some of those streaming apps, you're going to have to buy a separate streaming device for that. You can buy an inexpensive $30 one. It'll probably do the job. But just remember, when you do use that, you won't have access to that VS10 video engine. I do have to share some of the issues that I found. So some of the poster art is not always perfect. When I saw the Oro 3D demo that's on here, it showed some Indian movie that had nothing to do with it, but because the name was similar, that's what it recommended. So, you know, there are issues. There are ways to fix it, though. So you can go in and manually rematch it. It's a little bit of a pain to do with the remote. I wish it were a bit easier to do that, but it is possible. I also want to mention their mobile app, which I think is very useful because you can play music directly to it. So in case you don't want to turn on your TV and you have it connected to an AVR that will turn on automatically when it turns on, then you can just start playing music and use this as a music player, control everything from your phone, and you're good to go. It also has this feature where you can cast the video that you would normally see on your TV or projector, and you can see it on your phone. So that's kind of cool. If you don't want to turn on your projector or TV and you just want to change some settings, you can actually do it all from your phone. It's as if your phone becomes the TV or projector screen, and you can control everything with touch. So overall, who is this for? It's for somebody who is an audiophile that wants a great audio experience, and you want to use those XLRs, and you want access to PEQ, and you want your VU meters, and you want your HD content from Qobuz or Tidal. If you're a videophile and you have a huge collection, you can throw them on some hard drives, put it into this, and you're good to go. They also have USBs if you want to use external hard drives. If you want to use a NAS drive and access all your videos from there, you can, and the playback will be seamless, and it'll make the video as good as it possibly can, depending on what you're using for a TV or projector. You'll just get the best possible video and audio from this device. So I like that. So if you're interested in this, I'll leave a link down below. For full disclosure, Zidoo did send this out for you for the purpose of this review. They didn't get to review this prior, and I'm able to say whatever I want. But yeah, hopefully that helps you decide whether this product is for you, or maybe one of their other products is more suitable for what you're looking for. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when I upload new videos, all that stuff. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.